Hey, you're not Brett Sheridan.
Not today.
And I'm glad because it's Sean Chandler, and he's here to join me for this big news. Sean's going to be on the show on Thursday. We're going to do a whole special of the upcoming movies for the entire 2024. But as you got here, I said, hey, dude, there's some news. And the news is, of course, that The Mandalorian Season 4 is not going to happen. It's going to be a movie, which was rumored for a bit. But what we were saying on our show, and I think a lot of people kind of thought it would make sense, is not only is it going to be the first movie out past the Rey movie, Jon Favreau is directing it. And you said it right before we started shooting. It's like, why wouldn't you do that?
Right. Exactly. I mean, you go back 10 years. He was my first pick. When I was like, who will do episode 7? Yeah. He was my first pick. Well, Brad Bird was my first pick. He was my second pick.
Yeah.
And so immediately you go, yeah, that makes sense.
Why wouldn't he be the first pick? I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Look what he did in the launch for the MCU, what he did for Iron Man, all these different things. People say, oh, look at Iron Man 2. He was rushed into Iron Man 2. And you look what he did with Mandalorian. Star Wars was in such a state in like right after Rise of Skywalker that the fans were so divided that when the Mandalorian came together, it was like the first time the fan base got reunited.
Right. Well, and an on-ramp for a new generation.
That's
I mean, that was the first show ever where my whole family was excited for it. You know, my son back 4 years ago, he was like, oh, there's a show where he's got a helmet and a jetpack. Like, yeah, he does. It's called a Mandalorian. He was all in. And then my 5-year-old, she's got 7 Grogus in her stuffies.
That's the trick, though, right? That was the trick because they right now, and the other thing is the PR over the last week for Star Wars has been atrocious. Comments that were made by a director of the Rey film kind of set people, ablaze, and the audience was kind of going back and forth, the fan base back and forth. This is a great way to say, hey, forget about that because the internet forgets things fast. And it's like, guess what? Favreau's actually the first movie. Favreau's going to do this, and it brings together that, oh, well, this is the guy that did the Marvel stuff. I don't love the title though. If that is the title, The Mandalorian and Grogu, but I get it.
Is that what it's called?
That's what it said on StarWars.com. On StarWars.com, it said in like italic font, it said, the Mandalorian and Grogu, and it's a terrible title. However, it does show the casual fan who just knows the Mandalorian and Grogu. Oh, they're doing a movie of that now?
Right, exactly. And it's clear to the point. And the one concern I had when this started being rumored a month back was what just happened with the Marvels. They did a movie that was a follow-up to, you had to do a bunch of homework, a bunch of TV shows on a streaming service. Will that lose some people? That's the big kind of concern that I have. But at the same time, Mandalorian is so much bigger as a cultural movement that is multi-generational. Everyone is in on it.
It is a mainstream show. And I remember even seeing once they were calling him Baby Yoda and all this stuff. Like it was every news program. People who didn't see him, who knew they even watched Star Wars, but they go, oh, look, Baby Yoda, baby. And so, yeah, you make a great point about, will you have to be caught up on all this stuff in order to know what the movie's about? Or because it does lend itself into that time period between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens, that what can you do? It's going to clearly lead into the Filoni movie, and I'm assuming it's also going to connect into Ahsoka Season 2, which was also announced. People were curious if that was going to happen.
Yeah, so that all those little details, that there's so many moving parts, I don't know. With Star Wars, feels like it's just such like in a messy place where just such a lack of clear direction of where they're going, and that this is the one that's coming first after they already announced these other ones, and then you immediately go, well, what does that mean? What am I supposed to do with this information? Is this like a backup plan? Is this use course correcting because season 3 wasn't as well received?
I think that last part absolutely has to do with that. I think this was always the plan, though. I think that people just assumed that the Rey movie was coming first. But I think that once they decided during the writer's strike and everything, too, because Favreau had written all of Season 4. Season 4 was done. And then they probably, and the rumors were, and even like Jeff Snyder had broken this, that it actually it had been, fluctuating around the internet for a bit, that this was going to happen. I think they said to him, hey, can we just condense this story and can you make it a film? Because it'll connect into Dave's universe. It will help Dave Filoni's movie if it's successful, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and whoever comes out first after all of this has the advantage of being the first Star Wars movie in 5 years, but has the disadvantage of what exactly are we doing with the following up a Disney Plus show? That's the one that just to break that ground.
Yeah.
To make sure that it works, you have to test the principle, but then the second one would build off of that.
Yeah.
So I'm even just as a strategy with everything kind of going on with Disney, with how bad of a year they just had, I just have so many question marks as to how some of this will do. And at the same time, like I literally pulled up to your house and you're like, did you hear the news?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's going on? And so like, I'm excited to go home just to tell my son, like, we're going to get to see Mando on the big screen.
Right.
And so there's so many different emotions I'm having, even processing that this is happening.
See, the one thing that I think that's also very smart about it, but it being the first one to launch, I think that if it is successful, it gives that Rey movie more of a cushion because having that movie lead with the fact that movie in general was that trilogy was divisive. It doesn't have everybody on board with it. The comments from the director last week didn't help with the marketing of it. It gives more time for people to say, okay, that was a while ago. This movie comes out, like as you said, it's the first one out of the gate. It's going to have, you would assume, that kind of original trilogy feel because Mandalorian season 1 and season 2 did. And they sprinkle in kind of feels of the prequels and stuff too. But Jon Favreau knows how to make a movie. He knows how to make a movie.
And has a lot of nerd credibility.
He does.
And I mean, even go back before Iron Man, Elf. And this is a guy that has worked in many different genres, proven himself repeatedly. And then, of course, he's done the thing in Star Wars that unified us in the last 7 years.
Yeah.
He's the one guy that did a show that was like, we all agree, Mandalorian season 1 and 2, that was really cool. And so seems very natural and obvious to have him be the one to do the first one that hopefully starts to win people back and gets us used to going back to the movies to see Star Wars again.
It's the one that you would tell me if you put them on the table and you said, okay, out of these movies, which one has, if you're Disney and the business side of it, which one has the chance to make $1 billion? Because that's what they're always shooting for, right? That one. That one has the shot to make $1 billion because it is familiar. People do know it. It is Favreau. People, as you said, he's got the nerd cred, and he's going to go out there and he's going to make the movie, and it's going to feel like a Star Wars event because we haven't had a Star Wars event like that feel, that unified fan event in a very long time.
Right.
Maybe since The Force Awakens. No, maybe Rogue One. Rogue One, I think, would kind of like people went really excited to see it, and even when going in to see it, and I guess The Last Jedi people were excited to see it, and then all hell broke loose afterwards. but you know, in general, this is big news, and it is going to, and he is working. Filoni has that role now where he's like the one who's overlooking all the stories. So he's obviously going to be working very close with Favreau because they got to connect. They got to connect their movies. Unlike Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams, these two will be working together to have that connective thread. So when we get to Filoni's movie, let's say that this movie, that's what they didn't say. This movie goes into production. They said, I think it said soon, right? It's coming out at the end of the year. Is that what it said? Something like that?
I believe so.
I see something in the article. It starts production, I think, this year. So that means that you're probably going to get that movie in 2026. So the question is now, does that movie drop in the May spot that was supposed to be the Rey movie? And does Filoni's movie stay in December to connect? Or does it get pushed, and does the Rey movie come first? Or does the Rey movie come out in 2027? So there are a lot of questions, as you said.
And the way that Disney keeps doing this with release dates of like, they don't announce any Star Wars movie, or excuse me, they announce 1,000 Star Wars movies that we've all said it. Like, there was a point in time where when we heard a new Star Wars movie was coming out, it was like, I can't believe it. And it reached a point in time where it was like, I don't believe it.
Right. 100%.
And we've all said that. And so then we shift to like, are we getting 3 Star Wars movies in a year and a half? Like what's going on that you can't pace these out? I don't know. That's the confusing.
Yeah, it's been a Kathleen Kennedy thing. She will announce a movie and then she goes, and it's like, just kidding. Like so many different times. Feige, just kidding. Patty Jenkins, just kidding. Benny Weiss, just kidding. The list goes on and on and on. And this isn't a just kidding. It isn't happening. It's just, yeah, it's coming out in 2026 at this time. Just kidding. It's like, don't do that. Just like this. It's like, okay, we know it's the first one. So when does it come out? Does it come out in 2025 now? Like, I would assume it. If I was to guess, I would say that May, the Star Wars day of 2026 is when we see this film. Then I think it is smart to just do the Filoni movie right afterwards because it's probably going to connect into the Ahsoka series. You get 2 bangers back to back, and Star Wars is back. So that way, if the Rey movie works or doesn't work, it's like, okay, they had one little flounder there, or it crushes, and then they're really cooking.
Yeah, and if that's the way that they can actually get Star Wars fans back together and get that momentum, that would be really nice. And get that solid plan, not guessing around, not announcing things, and like, Taika Waititi's going to do this. And like, how does that even fit in with anything? No. You have like some guys that actually know what they're doing, that understand Star Wars, that have a lot of nerd credibility, and you get them releasing several things in a row that tie together and builds momentum so we get excited again.
And I think this announcement has done just that. So the question now goes to you guys. What do you think about the announcement? Do you think that this is the smart play? Do you think that this is going to work? Do you like the idea that they are not doing season 4 and now they're just pushing right to a film? How do you feel about it? Could this be the right play, or do you disagree? Did you like the old plan, and did you think that they should have waited, or Favreau should just stuck to doing the television series? I want to thank Sean for being here today. Again, reminder that Sean's going to be on the show this Thursday as we're going to do a full preview to the entire 2024 film slate. No, we'll miss something here and there. The big ones, a lot of big ones. So join us. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Trying to get to 200,000 faster than we got to 100, but we need you guys to do it. So hit that button. Do it, like, comment, the rest of it. See you later.